before, had that too, it goes there. And again, you don't carry over charges.
That's where I'm confused at the positive charges.
Okay, and the only reason Mg has a positive charge, like, oh, do I put positive or if I put negative, is because magnesium is a metal. So all metals are going to have a plus sign. And the only ones you need to know, and you can mark it on your periodic table, are the first two families. Anything in these two families is going to have positive signs.
Can you give the next one? Because I don't know.
Okay, so +1 for this family one, +2 for this. And then over here, the negative signs, this is -1, -2, -3. So just write that on the top of your periodic table, -1, -2, and -3. Aluminum sometimes is As, and aluminum is +3. Okay, so those are things you can have on your periodic table. And these are negatives because they're nonmetals. Let me go ahead and do number 24, or 23, aluminum acetate. I cannot spell for anything. Okay, aluminum acetate. Aluminum is Al. +3. Acetate, that sounds kind of funny, and it ends in ATE. So I'm going to go to my polyatomic chart. It's at the very, very top. You can use either one of these. You can use the C2H3O2 or the CH3COO. I like using the second one, but it doesn't matter which one you use. But because it's a polyatomic ion, all those capital letters are a package deal. So nothing's going to happen on the inside. Okay? Absolutely nothing happens. All you do is switch the charges. So aluminum had 3. Well, that 3 is going to go here. And the 1 would go to the aluminum, which you don't have to rewrite it. And that would be that one. I'm going to start you off. I'm on the mixed compound side. I think you guys got a full worksheet for that. Maybe it's here. No, it's not. Oh, this one's Ionic Compounds 3. Okay. Yes, this is what we need to practice together. Before you move on to that mixed compound side, this one has something new as well. I'm going to teach you, and if you don't catch on today the first time, that's okay. We'll continue practicing on Monday, but we do have our exam. I believe it's on Tuesday. So you guys have always asked me, what about the charges in the middle? This is how we find that out, okay? Okay. It's called multivalent cations. It says write the charge of the metal ion in the compound on the line. Assume the charge of the halogen ions is -1. Okay, so halogens is going to be -1. Oxygen and sulfur will be -2. And nitride is -3. So they gave us a lot of information. So number 1A, assume the charge. So we're finding the charge of the metal. Which one of these is the metal? Copper or chlorine? Okay, so this is what the charge we're looking for. For all of these that you're going on, it's the charge of the metal. So if it's in the middle section, consider it a metal. Okay. Assume the charge of the halogen is -1. Okay, so this charge is -1. So what's going to happen, I'll read the top. It says the charge of the ions of some elements can easily be predicted from their position on the periodic table. For example, calcium loses 2 electrons and forms a +2. Chlorine atoms gain 1 electron and form a -1. So what it's saying is some of them you can easily find out what the charges are. Other elements are more difficult to predict and have many different charges. An example is copper that may lose either 1 or 2 electrons. The charges of the ions of an ionic compound must add up to 0. So what it's saying, if this is going to be -1, in essence, this will be +1. Okay? So what you would write for 1A is +1. In a sense, whatever the nonmetal is connected to it, that's the charge of the metal. Okay? Whatever the charge of the nonmetal, the thingy connected to it, whatever that charge is, that's going to be the charge of the metal. So 2A, Cu, and Cl2. Okay, the charge of chlorine's -1, but you have 2 of them. Okay, so this entire charge over here is -2. Therefore, your copper has to be +2. And that's what would go here. And again, so the pattern you might see is whatever the charge of the second element is going to be the charge of the first element. Due to the fact that these are usually in the periodic table in the middle region, it can have multiple charges. Let's look at 3A. And if we look at our periodic table, what's the charge of tin? 50, it's right here. Okay? We can't tell for sure what the charge of tin is. That's why it takes the charge of whatever it's connected to. So fluorine has a charge of -1. Okay, but there's 4 of them. So this entire charge on this side is -4. So the charge of this is going to be +4. Does anybody have any questions on this? This is the more challenging part of it. I want you to work out the first 2 parts we did when you were just purely copying like the polyatomic ions. And then when you get to this part, attempt to do it. If you need more help, I can help you with it.